Hello everyone and welcome back to English with Lucy. I am very, very excited about today's video because you helped me create it. I asked my Instagram followers to tell me some of the most difficult pairs of English words. Words that my students genuinely find tough to remember or to say or to differentiate between. Words like effect and affect. Either and neither, or is it either and neither? We will talk about that. What about accept and accept, or loose and lose? Should you use ashore, ensure, or inshore? What do they mean? How do we use them? We will go through all of these and many, many more. I have 10 sets of confusing English words, and you will leave the lesson feeling that little bit more knowledgeable. Right, let's get started with the confusing English words. I'm going to present to you 10 pairs, or in some cases, trios, of words that are generally found to be very, very confusing. They are confusing to English learners and native speakers alike. I know that I make mistakes with these words quite frequently. To help you out even further, to help you learn and memorize all of these little nuances, I have created a PDF worksheet. It's got all of the information from today's lesson, plus some extra activities that I think you'll really like. All you have to do to claim this free PDF is to sign up to my mailing list, and it will be sent directly to your inbox. The link to do that is also in the description box. So the first one, we have effect and affect. The pronunciation is so similar. With the first one beginning with E, I say effect, effect. It's slightly more of an I sound at the beginning. With the word beginning with A, I use the schwa, effect, effect. Please note, I am teaching modern received pronunciation here. Of course, there are lots of variations. But in general, in the UK, I hear people using the schwa, sound for both. Affect, 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 the same. I will say affect and effect to emphasize which word I'm referring to. Both of these words can take the form of both a noun and a verb. Affect is most commonly a verb and effect is most commonly a noun. Usually something affects something to produce an effect. So to affect, to affect, is to influence something or somebody. For example, do video games affect children's behaviour? Effect, the noun version, is a result or an influence. Do video games have an effect on children's behaviour? Now, effect can be used as a verb, to affect. However, this is quite rare, but it's not unheard of. It means to achieve or to produce. For example, we hope to affect a change in policy. Affect can be used as a noun, but this is incredibly rare and it's used in very specific situations, normally in psychology or psychiatry. And in this case, it means an emotional response, but I don't really see the value in going into detail in that. Now, how can you remember which is which? I have a little memory tip. Affect comes first alphabetically with A, and an action, affect, has to happen first in order to produce an effect. I don't know if that's made it easier or more complicated, but it made sense in my head. Okay, now we have one with which I really struggle, a pair that I really struggle with. It is bring and take. They don't sound similar, but my mother always used these interchangeably when I was growing up. And it's only since I've been with my fiance, William, that I've realised how often I use these words incorrectly. I will say, if you use these incorrectly, it's highly likely that we understand what you mean. Obviously, the most important thing is communication, but here we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. We're looking deep into these words. So bring implies movement towards somebody. So it depends on point of view. Normally it's towards the speaker. Now take implies movement away from someone or something. Again, it totally depends on whose point of view we're looking at. Let's have a look at two dialogues. Both of these dialogues are from Tom's point of view. We have Tom, we have Jane. We are seeing things from Tom's point of view. Tom and Jane are in the living room. Tom asks Jane, "Are you going to the kitchen?" And Jane replies with, "Yes." Tom responds with, "Can you bring me my phone charger?" So Jane will return from the kitchen with Tom's charger and give the charger to Tom. Another dialogue, again from Tom's point of view. Tom asks Jane, "Are you coming over for dinner tonight?" And Jane responds with, "Yes." Jane doesn't talk much, does she? Tom then responds with, "Please could you bring a dessert?" So Jane will carry a dessert from where she is to where Tom is in his house. So Tom and Jane are at home together. Tom says, "Please could you take this letter to the post office?" So the letter is moving away from where they are. It's a different place. Jane, who seems to be very, very nice, very submissive, says, "Would you like me to take you to the station tomorrow?" So she will be carrying Tom from the house to the station. Now, I don't know why, with English as my mother tongue, I still find this concept so difficult to use correctly in my daily life. And that's just a clear example of how frustrating English can be sometimes. It's my mother tongue and I still struggle with it. So please don't beat yourself up if you find some of these concepts quite hard. The most important thing is communication here. I might accidentally ask Will, "Oh, can you bring me to the station?" instead of "Can you take me to the station?" And he always rolls his eyes and says, "Take!" Oh, it's so annoying. The same thing happens with lefts and rights. I really struggle with lefts and rights. My brain doesn't do it, and it's the same with bring and take. Right, let's move on to these two words, either or either, and neither or neither. Now, I really frequently receive questions about the pronunciation of these words because I use the pronunciations interchangeably. How confusing is that? But seriously, there are just some words in the English language that have two or more accepted pronunciations, and people tend to use both pronunciations. Now, in general, in American English, they tend to use, as far as I'm aware, either and neither. It seems that in British English, we're more inclined to use both. Either, neither, neither. My recommendation to you is just pick the one you like best. I can imagine myself at dinner saying, "Oh, carrots or peas, either's fine." But I can also imagine myself saying, "Either one will do." Isn't that weird? I bet there is a study on these words and why we do that, and I need to find it. Now, either or either means one or the other of two things or people. Anyone will do. It does not matter which. Neither or neither means not one nor the other of two people or things. Let me show you an example. Let's pretend I am in my classroom teaching my class of students, and I ask the classroom for a synonym for happy. So I want the class to give me another word that also means happy. Now, Miguel might tell me content, and Rania might tell me cheerful. Both of these answers are correct, so I can use either word. See, naturally I went to either there. I can use either word. I can use either word. There must be some logic to that. Now, Aga says sad and when says down. Both of these answers are wrong. Neither answer is correct. Okay, number 4, we have advise and advice. So, ISE is a Z sound at the end. Eyes, advise. ICE is a S sound at the end. Ice, advice. In this case, Eyes is the verb, advise, to advise, and advice with ice is the noun. To advise is to tell somebody what you think they should do in a particular situation. An example, I would strongly advise against going out alone. Advice is the noun version of this. It is a suggestion or an opinion on what somebody should do in a particular situation. His advice was to not go out alone. Let's move on to number 5. It is practice and practice. The pronunciation of both is the same. Now, in British English, the noun is practice with I-C-E at the end, and the verb to practice has I-S-E at the end. So we have a difference. In American English, I-C-E is used for both. So a lot of my students always say, I find American English easier, and this is one of the reasons why. I totally understand. They have simplified, or not, it's not even simplified, they've just made some things more logical. I can't think of many situations in which it would be confusing to have the same spelling for practice as a noun and practice as a verb, but maybe I'm wrong. So to practice as a verb, I-S-E in British English, I-C-E in American English, is to do an activity or to train in order to improve your skill. And practice, always I-C-E, is the act of doing an activity or training regularly in order to improve your skill. So let's look at these two sentences. One is British English, the other is American English. They will sound exactly the same, just with different accents. Oh no, do I have to do my American accent? In British English, I need to practice my violin as it takes a lot of practice to play well. And American English, I don't know if I'm going to leave this in the video. We will see how it goes. I'm sure there's an American out there watching me thinking, shut up. I need to practice my violin as it takes a lot of practice to play well. I sound like Siri. Oh, that's so much fun. That is so silly. Right, we have still got 5 more pairs or trios of confusing words, but I'm going to stop the lesson here. I don't want to overload you. So next week we will have the second part of this lesson. Do not forget to download the PDF for this first section of the lesson and to complete the activities. I think they will really help you get these differences and these confusing words into your brain. Don't forget to connect with me on all of my social media. I've got my Facebook, my Instagram, and my email list. I've also got my new British English pronunciation course where I teach modern received pronunciation. I'm very, very proud of it, and we've had some fabulous feedback from students so far. I will see you soon for another lesson. Mwah!